How far could you get in Bloons Tower Defense 5 if you were only allowed to use explosive projectiles? Well, this question is actually a bit trickier than it sounds, because many towers that seem like they should be allowed, such as the Apache Dart Ship Inspector, will actually fire darts along with their missile projectiles, making them both banned. And beyond that, while the bomb tower itself is obviously allowed, I cannot get the frag bomb upgrade either, since that would allow the bomb tower's explosion to also fire non-explosive projectiles. And thus, with such a strict rule set, we are pretty limited in what towers we actually can use for this challenge at all. And I also do want to give a shout out to Demon Gamer Yeet for suggesting this on my recent community post. Now, if you're curious what towers I'm actually allowed to use, it would of course be the bomb tower like I already mentioned, minus the frag bomb upgrade, the entirety of the mortar monkey, because none of its upgrades have anything besides explosive projectiles, and then finally, the Hydra rocket pods and Bloon aerial denial system upgrades on the Dartling gunner, as long as I can afford to purchase it between rounds without ever allowing the Dartling gunner to fire regular darts first. So, how far do you think these towers will get yourself? I'd love to hear your guesses in the comments below. Now, of course, we have no way to farm extra money in the traditional sense, but if you've seen some of my previous videos, you'll probably remember that the Mortar Monkey is one of many towers in this game that comes with a really powerful glitch, which will actually allow us to earn a lot of extra money from popping the balloons themselves later on in the game. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll explain it once we get there. But that's why I chose to start with mortar monkeys instead of bomb towers, which aren't too bad once you activate their specialist building, since that is what allows the mortars to actually target balloons like they're a normal tower. And I mean, there isn't really much to be seen here that I haven't already shown you guys many times before, but I'll just quickly say that in order to survive these early rounds with only mortar monkeys, I had to make sure to use the burning stuff upgrade so that they can pop black and zebra balloons, and also I got a signal flare before round 24 to make sure that we can deal with the camo balloons as well. And then I let the game run for a bit so that I could save up some more cash and upgrade 2 of my mortars into 4 2 big ones right as we took down the first Moab balloon. And honestly, the camo pink balloons on round 47 were actually getting a bit tough for a single solar flare to keep up with, so I had to get a second one down as well. And once we got to round 50, you can really see just how much stronger that the big ones are against the Moabs compared to the tier 3 mortars that we had before. But also, now that we are past round 50, they are going to be even more useful, as this is where that glitch I was talking about a minute ago actually comes into play. You see, certain explosive projectiles that are able to deal more than 1 damage per explosion end up actually allowing you to earn more money than you're supposed to once the game starts giving you less money from popping balloons, which happens on round 51. On screen is an exact chart of how that goes, but with the big one mortar being able to deal 5 damage per shot itself, along with having a very large blast radius, these towers are going to end up letting us earn more money from destroying the balloons than we would otherwise. And that's definitely going to be important here, because I think to build the optimal defense with the options that we have, we're going to end up needing over $1 million total, which is certainly not going to happen when we don't have access to banana farms or anything else like it. But it really wasn't difficult for the big one mortars to take care of all the Moabs and BFBs that come out during the preset rounds of BTD5, and in fact, by round 84, I had a strong enough defense to easily rip through everything. And while the first ZOMG on round 85 did put up a bit more of a fight, it didn't take too long before our mortars had popped it down into BFBs, which of course got quickly destroyed themselves. And now that we're entering true free play, our big ones will be able to make even more extra money, given that the income generation has been cut down to just 10% from the balloons, along with the fact that each round itself is giving us a large amount of Moab class balloons to face, which of course produce a ton of ceramic balloons to fuel our income generation further. In fact, as I got past the round 100 mark, I had made around double the amount of money that you could normally expect to have earned from popping balloons at this point. All the mortars that I have on the map themselves cost over 400,000, with me also having more than that saved up as well. So if you combine those two together, I'm really not all that far away from having $1 million now in total. And thus, I figured we only really needed to save up money for a little bit longer, so I let the game run until we had beaten round 110 and just barely crossed over the 600,000 mark in terms of savings, which increased to 950,000 once I sold off all my mortars. I guess I was a little bit wrong about them being worth 400k, but still, this definitely isn't bad. And here's what I'm planning to do now. First, I switched over to the bomb tower specialist building, as I'm now going to be filling up as much of the map as I can with 1-4 Moab assassins, with me of course making sure not to get the frag bombs upgrade on any of them as well. And with this tower costing under $5,000, that really wasn't too difficult given how much money we had to work with. And then, once I had a ton of them in place, I actually decided to test a round out, but as you can see, while the Moab class balloons are getting destroyed quite well, there are a few weaker balloons that actually make it further down the track. So, in order to deal with the ceramics as well as I can, my plan was to get a few balloon impact bomb towers to replace Moab assassins up here, and actually have different targeting on each of them in order to hit as many ceramic balloons as possible, and of course, have them also get trapped in this corner. And then with that in mind, I also got 4 big one mortars down as well, with each one being targeted to a different corner of the square that's in the upper left corner, and I'm sure you can guess this, but the idea is for them to then shred through the ceramic balloons as they're being trapped by our balloon impacts, which definitely turned out to be a pretty solid plan, as the bomb towers, all being targeted to strong, were able to focus on taking down all the blimps, and then of course all the resulting ceramics were getting destroyed by the setup I just explained. Now, I do have to ask, if you are enjoying this video, please do consider dropping a like and sub if you haven't already, because seriously, that is the biggest thing you can ever do to actually help this video reach more people in the algorithm. And ultimately, this defense ended up getting really close to around 150 without any issues at all, but on 149, you can see that there were actually some small balloons starting to make it further down the track, and this ended up turning into quite a few ceramics, which actually caused us to leak 3 lives during the round. So at this point, I slowed the game down and used our Moab assassin abilities to clear everything out to make sure that nothing else slipped through before I got to work writing up an auto hotkey script for us that can actually buy a 0-4 mortar, then use its activated ability that can briefly stun every balloon on screen before selling the tower, activating some of the Moab assassin abilities as well, and repeating the process over and over. Ultimately, the idea being to really see just how far the defensive options that we have can actually get with the perfect setup. Because I know I'm not very good at microing, but the script is gonna be perfect. Well, at least I thought it was until I actually had some human error on my part, because I was really wondering why the mortar monkey would get stuck for a second after being placed down, until I realized that I actually had to put a second click command after the first one, so that way the targeting would be placed first, along with me also reducing the timings themselves, because that would make the script run better, and this was definitely enough to get us off to the races. And like I said, that auto hotkey script really is a lot more efficient than I could ever hope to be. With the way that I wrote it up, we're having the mortar tower microed in basically a perfect harmony with all of our Moab assassin abilities. That's why there are basically none of them getting left over every time that the cycle completes. And I also had to run the game in slow mode in order to make sure our setup didn't get limited by ability lag, which of course meant that this game was taking nearly 2 hours to complete. And while I still have a second, I just really want to tell you guys how much it actually means to me that this channel's been able to grow so much. If you haven't noticed, it's been nearly 1 year since I posted my first BTD5 video ever. I think I posted it on exactly May 30th. Well, I know that. I don't know why I say I think when I know something that's one of those weird things that I feel like people do. But anyways, point being, like, you guys have made this channel grow so much in that time. Obviously, I put in work myself, but you guys are the ones viewing these videos, and so it just means the world to me that this has ever been possible. The fact that these videos reach so many people is truly the most awesome thing that I can ever imagine, so thank you to each and every one of you out there. And I was really happy to see that this setup ended up actually reaching around 200, but with the fact that we had just leaked another small amount of lives, I knew that the end was going to be near. And yeah, sure enough, while we did push through a couple more rounds, it ended up being 203 that ultimately took us out. Now, I really don't think that there's any way to get much further than this, but if you have any ideas yourself, don't hesitate to let me know. My Discord's linked in the description below.